Hi, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of your Frederish Guest. My name's Gary, and here I am once again. Well, I really believe most of you, not to say all of you, myself included, love movies, right? Don't you guys love movies? Don't you guys love watching movies with your friends and family and people you like, or even alone? Isn't it such an amazing experience? Like being able to become and to become part of a at least moment at least for the moment, for the very same moment you're watching a movie, being able to become part of that, to immerse in the story, to live the story. And here's the key point for us in this episode: to learn something from the story, that movie, that story. Okay. And not all movies are that deep, despite of the ones we like, with lots of actions and blood and ass kicking, or love, or you name it. But isn't it interesting? Isn't it amazing when we watch a movie that we go like, wow, I'm gonna take it forever. I'm gonna certainly rewatch it first of all. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. Just like Rick Grimes threatening Negan in The Walking Dead. If you know, you know. So not today, not tomorrow, but someday, eventually, I'll watch that movie again. When you watch the movie, as soon as it finishes, you have that thought coming through your mind. So that's the type of movie that I like to call, and so do you probably, an inspirational movie. Okay, so I have used the opportunity that this is not episode 1 of this podcast, and probably this is not the first time you're listening to this podcast, so we're kind of friends, right? So I'm using this this blessing I have of being, someone, and use this prestige. That's the word I was looking for. This prestige. I'm use the prestige I have with you to make 5 recommendations of inspirational movies. Okay, so I am getting ahead of myself. Why don't you just, before anything else, go grab a cup of coffee, tea, beer, soda, whatever it takes for you to relax, and let us just do it. So the very first one is, if not my favorite movie ever, it is certainly my personal top 3. Okay, this is a movie I loved. I saw it for the first time. It was released in 1994, but I watched it for the first time in the early 2000s, probably 2005, yeah, or 4. Can't remember exactly, but something there. Okay, The Shawshank Redemption. If you never saw that movie, or maybe you saw that movie but on TV or here in Brazil, it goes by the name of Um Sonho de Liberdade. Totally nothing to do with the original title, but this is the most common thing ever in movies, having a title that does not translate exactly the original title. All right, so let me read the summary here. Andy Dufresne, a banker wrongly convicted of murdering his own wife, is sentenced to life in Shawshank prison. Hence the name of the movie, Shawshank, the name of the prison. Over 2 decades, he befriends fellow inmate Red, Morgan Freeman, and earns the trust of the warden by offering financial advice. Warden, guys, you guys don't know that warden is the chief of the prison. Okay, I think in Brazil we call it carcereiro. Yeah, okay. Anyways, quietly, Andy plans his escape while helping others inside prison find dignity and hope. Okay, the movie's totally about hope, friendship, redemption, and perseverance, as you guys could see by the summary. Yeah, well, I don't want to spoil much, but I will a little bit eventually here in this episode. So if you haven't seen these movies, I wouldn't say go watch the movies and then come back here, because I'm not gonna. These movies are so great that they are the type of movies that you don't care much about knowing what's going to happen, okay? Because it's much more about how it is going to happen than what it is going to happen, if you know what I mean. Okay, so in basically the movie starts when this guy, this character, Andy Dufresne. Well, it's a fictional story written by Master Stephen King, and then this character Andy Dufresne goes to prison, and he's clearly innocent. Okay, he is convicted. I don't remember if the movie makes it clear at the very beginning, but eventually you find out that he is innocent. All right, and he's sentenced to life. Okay, that is spending the life in prison, perpetual prison. Okay, and he will find all kinds of challenges. He will bump into all kinds of challenges and problems that any prison will offer. Okay, the story takes place in the, it doesn't say. One of the things I like about American movies, they don't say. Maybe the book. I never read the book, to be honest. I have it, but a friend borrowed it, and I have to take it back when I can. So yeah, it takes place somewhere in 1920s, 1930s. Okay, and there are very good reasons for me to believe that. But anyways, the movie takes place in the early 20th century, all right? And then after going through all the problems, passing all the problems, suffering all the sufferings possible for an inmate in prison, he learns how to deal with things. He's a banker, as I read the summary here, so he's not a street guy. So he kind of it takes him a few years to adapt to that situation, and so he does, and in a very good way. Okay, but it starts helping people, befriending the other inmates, watching the years go by, and as I said, helping the warden with financial advice, to a point where the warden learns that he is innocent and does not help him leave the prison, because now he's become an important tool to the warden, which is a very bad man, by the way. But eventually he plans and flees and escapes the prison in the very, very, very masterpiece style. Okay, very inspirational way. Amazing. It will bring you adrenaline, like, oh my gosh, this guy needs to be successful at this escaping, and then he leaves, and eventually his friends leaves he escapes the prison, and his friend leaves because he wasn't doing life, meaning he would leave, he would serve his sentence and leave, and they meet at the end. And if you don't cry watching this movie, I don't know what would make you cry. Second movie is also Master Stephen King, also written by Master Stephen King, The Green Mile. Again, different name in Brazil. In Brazil, it's called, oh my gosh, let me think for a few seconds. In Brazil, Green Mile goes by A Espera de Milagre. Yeah, that's the name in Brazil. You certainly saw that movie on TV. I really believe you saw that movie on TV. But there's the book, of course. It's a book written by Master Stephen King. And it is about, also in the 30s. Okay, here we have the dates. Oh, let's read the summary first. Paul Edgecombe, a prison guard on death. Tom Hanks, this Paul Edgecombe. On death, a prison guard on death row in the 1930s meets John Coffey, a gentle giant convicted of murdering 2 girls. Poe discovers that coffee has miraculous healing powers and begins to suspect he may be innocent. As tensions rise, Poe must confront questions of justice, morality, and faith. So the movie is about compassion and justice, supernatural things, and moral dilemmas, and full with moral dilemmas. Well, basically, there's this prison. If you haven't seen the movie, where is what they call death row. That is a prison aisle or area where there are only inmates that are sentenced to the sentence with the top sentence, that is death sentence. Okay, they're going to the electrical chair. And there's this guy. It's a they say giant, but it's of course a very, very tall man, black man, with that. Well, immediately comparing him to the other inmates there, to the other prisoners, the prison guard, played by Tom Hanks, by the great Tom Hanks, realizes this guy may be innocent because, well, he's doing things. He's like as harmless as a pigeon. Despite of his size or anything, and he, more than that, he seems to have some special powers. You know, he heals creatures. Okay, there's a scene where a little mouse gets stomped by one of the prison guards, and then he heals the rat, the little rat, the mouse. And the prison guard played by John Edgecombe, played by Tom Hanks, sees that and gets eventually to witness this guy, John Coffey, making a few other miracles, curing his own daughter or his own wife. I don't remember exactly, you know. But nevertheless, he, over the movie, as the movie goes by, he realizes that he is powerless about his sentence. That this man will go to the the end, meaning will be sentenced to death, will be killed on the electric chair. So he's gonna receive the death sentence and die. And that's what happens, okay? And then at the end of the movie, there is a very interesting, many years later, there are, one of the people who John Coffey gets to cure is Poe Edgecombe himself, okay? So he had a disease, I remember, I think, prostate cancer or something like that. Probably that, prostate cancer. And he gets cured, okay? But even though he sees himself, he watches himself powerless over the justice, you know? And he starts questioning, of course, the law and everything. So there are lots of moral dilemmas, as I said. But at the end, you know, John Coffey gets executed. And then years later, you know, there is a very, very cool ending, which I'm not gonna say here because, well, there's a chance that you didn't see it, or if you saw that, you don't remember, and it's totally worth watching it again, rewatching it. So just do it. The next movie is based on a true story called The Pursuit of Happiness. Yeah, this gets a good translation, a literal translation, that is A Busca pela Felicidade. And Chris Gardner, a man that exists in real life, and it's his story being portrayed here, played by great Will Smith and his son Jaden Smith. Yeah, it's an amazing story. First of all, because you know that this story is true. It's based on a real story and a true story. And let's read the summary. Chris Gardner struggles with homelessness while trying to raise his young son. Despite countless setbacks, he secures an unpaid internship at a brokerage firm, driven by love for his son and the hope of a better future. Well, it's an amazing story because get you get thrown into the daily challenges, the life of Chris Gardner and his son. Okay, first his wife leaves. Okay, he gets abandoned by his wife, his own wife. And he finds himself as the only person to raise his son, and so he does. And he's very, very poor. He's struggling with money, with paying the bills, with due bills, late bills, and it's really, really what's the word to describe it? It is really unsettling. All right, that's the perfect word. You get unsettled all the time, and the movie is made to have you uncomfortable all the time. Because, well, even just like I can help but think of a scene when I talk about feeling uncomfortable, is that despite all the situations of him not having money or begging his landlord to give him a few more days instead of throwing him to the street with his kids, what eventually happens. Despite all that, there are like simple situations in which the director probably went like, I want the audience to suffer with Chris Gardner here. There's a part where he gets a very, very good work opportunity, and he needs to write down a phone number, okay? And he doesn't have a pen close to him or in his house at all. So he just has to memorize, to pretend as if he's writing it down, but he's memorizing. He ends up like having to memorize the number, and it's a long number, saying very quickly, saying in a very didactical way, so to say. But he just hears that and memorizes that, and the minute he hangs the phone, something else happens, and he has to go running to do something else, and you have the feeling like, hey, he didn't memorize that number. It's not possible, But turns out he does memorize the number and call the number, and everything goes okay. And lots of other situations, sleeping on the streets with his kid. The movie doesn't portray him and his kids sleeping in the street properly, specifically, but sleeping in a public toilet in a station, locking the door, and sleeping there. And it's, well, one of the most emotional scenes ever. But at the end, he wins. He becomes a very successful man, and this happened in real life. So, what are you waiting for? Just go watch it. Next movie is A Beautiful Mind. I think in Brazil it goes by Uma Mente Brilhante in Brazil. Okay? This biographical drama follows John Nash, a brilliant mathematician who develops paranoid schizophrenia, and as he battles his mental illness with support from his wife, Nash learns to manage his delusions and eventually earns the Nobel Prize. Well, I am not sure if that was based on a true story, but it's a very, very good movie, very, very inspirational, because, well, this John Nash man is a freaking genius. Forgive my French. And he figures out lots of equations, mathematical equations. And, well, he does a lot to science. He's a professor at university, but he's got schizophrenia. He starts seeing people that are not there. In the movie, specifically, 3 people, okay? One of was a kind of a Russian mafia man, okay, Russian gangster. The other was a kid, which I don't remember. Well, If these movies I'm talking to you guys, I'm telling you guys now about, are worth rewatching, this will be the first that I will rewatch in this on this list, because I don't remember. It's been a while. It's been a few years since I last saw it, but I saw that many times before, and I will rewatch it. Believe me. So yeah, it's interesting because there are lots of things happen in his life, and his professional life and personal life. His relationship with his wife was very supporting, very understanding, an amazing human being, really, really depicting true love over him. Yeah, that's all I can say. And you don't. The interesting thing, as I said, I would kind of spoil. The interesting thing is that you don't realize he's got schizophrenia. I mean, yeah, maybe they mentioned that, but like, you don't realize that the three people I mentioned that he's watching, the three non-existing people I mentioned he's watching, you only find it out at the end of the movie. Okay, on the last scenes, This is nice. This is a kind of a plot. It's a kind of a surprise. It is a surprise. And I like that kind of movies with a surprise at the end of the movie. And well, this is one of the reasons and why. I'm gonna have to rewatch it to tell you more about it. But it's good that I don't spoil much if I don't remember much. But I do remember it is an amazing and an inspirational movie. So you should totally watch it if you haven't. If you have, you should totally rewatch it. The next movie is The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. Again, a literal translation, O Menino do Pijama Listrado, The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. Set during the Holocaust, this film tells the story of Bruno, the son of a Nazi commandant, who befriends Shmuel, a Jewish boy imprisoned in a concentration camp. Their innocent friendship leads to tragic consequences as the horror of war are seen through a child's eyes. Well, this is exactly that. A son of a Nazi commandant, as they say, befriends a Jewish boy, and they talk over. You may ask, oh, how do they meet eventually? They just meet through a fence, the fence of the concentration camps, okay? And he's wearing those specific concentration camp clothes that Jewish people would wear back in the Holocaust, in the World War II days, concentration camps, and those specific clothes that totally resemble a pajama, and hence the name, okay? Because I don't remember if the boy. This is a movie I watched only once, but I will rewatch. Okay, totally. I don't remember if the boy, the son of the Nazi, what's his name? Bruno. Okay, and let me just say that he's a kid. Despite his dad was a freaking Nazi, he's a kid, innocent kid, all right? So I don't know if he mentions that, but I think he asks Shmuel, like, why do you wear a pajama? It's 2 p.m. Why are you wearing pajama? And the boy goes like, I don't know if it doesn't get clear if the boy, because they're both kids, the Jewish boy doesn't really understand the reason why he's wearing those clothes. He cannot explain much. And honestly, Bruno was not expecting a full answer, like a complete answer, because they're both kids. But the thing is that they develop a beautiful and innocent friendship, and then everything's going on, Shmuel eventually goes away. The movie doesn't make it clear if he dies or not, but probably he does. And all that, that scenario and the beautiful connection between the two boys makes it really, really emotional and you get to reflect over a lot of things. So at the end of the day, it will, and it does, big time fall into the category of inspirational movies. Okay, this is it for this episode. I wait for you in the next one. Thank you so very much for your lovely and wonderful company. Bye.